Hello. Well, welcome to our Divergent discussion. I'm Michelle and I'm the founder of Kaboose. We're an inclusive and safe online community for neurodivergent individuals to connect, learn, and thrive their way. We're also excited to be launching our micro-learning program very soon. So just a reminder, the session is being recorded for those who can't make it live. And I'm super excited to be welcoming Laetitia, an award-winning entrepreneur. So very interesting to hear all about that. An international speaker, a podcast host of Neurodivergent Pulse. She's the best-selling author of Light It, How Do You Trust Your Intuition and Build a Thriving Business? Again, something I'm very keen to hear all about. With over 15 years experience in consulting, strategy and innovation, she's worked with industry leaders like Deloitte and Telstra. Inspired by her journey as a neurodivergent parent, she co-founded Understanding Zoe, the first AI-driven app dedicated to supporting caregivers of neurodivergent children. So we're going to hear all about that in our session today. Her passion is creating a more inclusive world where everyone can thrive, whether in their homes, communities, or workplaces. So welcome.
Thank you, Michelle.
And thank you for joining us. Here in Australia, it's Saturday morning, so we appreciate you giving up some of your weekend to join us. So I heard from Rox that you've just come back from a conference in Noosa. How was that? I saw a bit of social media about the conference, but I'm keen to hear what it was. How was it?
Yes, so we were a sponsor and a partner of Neurodivergent Minds conference, which was hosted in Twin Waters in Noosa on Gabi Gabi country. And it was organized by Cami, who decided to bring some neurodiversity affirming conferences up Queensland, because many of those conferences happen in major city, as we know, either Melbourne or Sydney. And for those who live up in Queensland, they don't really have a space and a community to gather when they are affirming therapists, teachers, educator, parents, support workers, social worker. So it was a very
Amazing.
beautiful conference, an intimate one, very inclusive, lots of learning, lots of time for connection. I've
Yeah.
really, really inspired to go back next year. I really hope Cami will do it again.
Oh, good. That's amazing. I did hear about it. So I was curious. It sounds like it was a smaller conference, but
Yeah,
that's great. And yes, in some parts of our country, it's hard to make conferences like that accessible.
exactly.
And Rox has also told me you've been on a holiday recently. So can you tell us about, where did you go and how do you make it work?
Mm.
As a parent, founder, it's kind of hard to juggle being a founder, taking a break, but it's equally hard when you've got, to think about the neurodivergent aspect while you're traveling.
Yes, definitely. And it's what I always say. It's never something you do just like this. You don't wake up one morning and be like, okay, I'm gonna go on a holiday today, because we all need lots of preparation and planning and accommodation and it's we went to Bali and we did that last year as well in October, because we know that
Mm.
then towards the end of the year it gets a bit crazy. Everyone gets a bit dysregulated and tired, and there's so many social events and things like that. So we went to Bali, and what really made it possible was, as I said, the forward planning. As a founder and a business owner, it's planning everything around this holiday. So what I
Mm.
often do is at the beginning of a year, I plan my holiday ahead. So for 2026, I already, even though the year hasn't started, planned all of my holiday ahead so that I know what I can and can't do. So if someone asks me to come to a conference because I was on a panel at that conference, I can say, no, I can't because I'm on holiday. Or I can say, yes, that works out. So really planning ahead the holiday and then finding places that will be inclusive and will be open for all the accommodations that we may need. Myself being neurodivergent and for my daughter, Zoe, who is neurodivergent as well. And really trying to fight against the internalized ableisms that I have. So wearing my sunflower lanyard when I'm at the airport, asking for accommodation when I need it, and making sure that the travel is as smooth as it is possible, because you always have some hiccup and things that are imprevisible. But yeah, it was a beautiful time away, and I highly recommend anyone who
Yeah.
has the energy to plan forward to just do it.
Yes.
I came back
Yeah.
really, really good.
Nice. Yeah. Bali's such a beautiful place. I haven't been since my children were very small. So I'm sure it's, yeah, especially at this time of year.
It's a
And as
good
you say, coming into the end of the year when things get hectic, it's kind of refreshing to be able to take that break
me
a bit
too.
earlier. Yeah. So you're a big advocate, as you've indicated, for neuroaffirming approaches. So, what does neuroaffirming parenting mean to you? And, how did you arrive at this? I suppose you've talked about this for travel. I guess I'm keen to hear a little more about that.
Yes, sure. So, first of all, for those who don't know what neuroaffirming means, it means embracing the neurodiversity affirming paradigm, which is a shift in language. So, not seeing ourselves as neurodivergent adult as broken, and not seeing our children as broken or someone to get fixed or cured or treated. There is nothing like that in
Yes.
the neuroaffirming language. So, we have this approach in our parenting, but also in our app Understanding Zoe, and in everything that I do to call out when the language is not honoring the individual strength. So it's not about living in a world of rainbow and fairy. Of course, we have challenges being neurodivergent and, being excluded in some experiences and some spaces, but it's not because of us. It's because of the systems that are not designed for us. Embracing often the neurodiversity affirming model goes with the social model of disability rather than the medical model of disability. So in my parenting journey, sorry, I had to just explain what it is to make sure
Yeah. No. Great. Yes.
that's what
I'm
I'm
very.
talking about. But
Yeah.
in my parenting journey, I arrived there after a journey of meeting some therapists who were really not affirming and not embracing the neurodiversity affirming paradigm, and telling us that something needed to be fixed in Zoe and that something needed to change, and that she should be able to look at people in the eyes, and she should be able to sit properly and to verbalize everything. And I was like, no, that doesn't feel right. And that's when I started reading more books and diving deeper, with my monotropic
Yeah.
brain being autistic, into the neurodiversity affirming paradigm. And the day I discovered that, I couldn't unsee it. And from there, I found therapists to surround us in our family who are affirming and embracing this paradigm. And since then, in our journey with Zoe, it's really about showing her what's possible and asking her to verbalize, share, communicate in whichever way she can at that point in time. Maybe it's not spoken words. What are her needs? What are the accommodations that she requires to feel included and to feel supported in those moments?
It's
So, really a
amazing.
shift in everything we do. And what makes me so proud is when I hear from Zoe's teachers that Zoe now really advocates for what she needs. She doesn't say sorry when she can't do something. She's really falling into that beautiful part of self that is, this is who I am, and you
Yeah.
better
It's
listen to what I need.
great. How old is?
She's 9 now, so it's been a
Yeah.
journey since she was very young, from daycare, or I think they call it early childhood center, until
Yes.
kindergarten, and moving through the
Yeah.
different stages of primary school. And I'm very, very honored now to witness her being able to share when.
Mm, that's amazing. I look back when my son Nick was diagnosed. He was 4. He's 22 now, and I just wish that we'd had a lot more research, a lot more
Yes.
information around the neuroaffirming approach, because I think it would have made such a huge difference to his mental health through secondary school. 10 years ago, it wasn't really known, that there was a different approach to the medical model of, you should do this and you should do this and you should go here and there and, twist yourself in knots over it all.
And then you know, the things that I always say to any parent who is in that journey is it's a journey, and it's not about feeling guilty or, beating ourselves up. We all need to go on our own journey. And I know that when some parents find our app, they're like, oh my goodness, I love the language and how affirming it is. And I wish I had known before. But I'm like, but you know now. So there is a big
Yeah.
lot of repair, sharing with your child or your children about, hey, I was learning as well. And the 80% out there is about fixing and beating ourselves up for being different and trying to make us fit in a box when we can't fit in that box, in that neuronormative approach. But let's give ourselves some grace. And as I said, we learned it after, a few years of going down the path of doing some things that felt really misaligned and being quite
Mm.
intuitive quite quickly. I was like, nope, that's not how it should be. There is nothing wrong with Zoe. She really is an amazing human and deserves to feel understood and heard and seen for who she is. And also potentially, as everyone kept repeating me, you were the same when you were a child. I'm like, I'm not broken. So why
No.
push
Look
broken?
at what you've achieved. I mean,
So honoring my own neurodivergence, and having been raised in a family where my parents really took the direction of not going down the path of ABBA therapy when I was younger and things like that. It's really, I think, this nurturing part of me wanted to do the same with Zoe, despite a system which was potentially set up through the funding we were getting, through the therapists we were recommending, maybe not so much embracing neurodiversity affirming. As you've said beautifully, Michelle, things are changing. There is more and more
mm,
research proving how the neurodiversity affirming paradigm is more helpful, creating less negative impact on mental health and all the intersectionalities that may happen when you're
mm,
neurodivergent. So
mm,
highly encourage anyone who is listening to this to explore
yes.
this model and see if that works for you.
Yeah, it's fabulous. I think even this week I did a talk with an organization about seeing and valuing the other, and very much in that affirming way. And there's such an opportunity, I think, for parents and communities and organizations to just value that people think differently
Yes,
and approach problems differently. And,
completely.
and that's really where the magic and innovation happens.
And this is something that has been proven, from First Nations. In the First Nation language, Tanya was sharing at the conference that she's a First Nation woman, how in First Nation language, in any of the dialect languages, there is no word for disability. So this is like this need of in our culture to other some people rather than being like, okay, they have a different way to experience the world. They have those difference in processing information. They have those difference in communicating, but they're all valid. They're all
Mm,
valid way of communicating. Why
exactly.
using words should be the one that everyone should use when
Mm,
actually you can communicate through dance, through
yeah.
drawing, through,
Yeah.
creating
You're
an it's your body, like so many ways to really express ourselves, and also in the data. So more the modern part, because I'm always like this kind of bridge between ancient wisdom from my lineage and where I grew up, and the new way as an AI expert. But in the new way, in the data, we know from JP Morgan research that when you have neurodiverse workforce, which means neurodivergent and neurotypical working together in your organization, the productivity will skyrocket to 140%. Then there is a
mm,
research from Deloitte which shows that your profit margin will increase. So if anyone is listening to this and they're more driven by data as an ancient wisdom, there is a shift that needs to happen to make sure that we work all together rather than othering some of us and being like, "Oh,
mm.
they should behave like us. Otherwise, they're not accepted."
Yeah. I think that I love data as well as, kind of the ancient thinking, but, Data is what gets some of these business leaders to listen to us for sure.
Exactly.
And what do you think, are some of the biggest myths around this type of, I guess, parenting or even parenting with neurodivergent kiddos, have
Yeah.
you come across, I'm sure you have with the work you're doing?
Yeah. I think the biggest misconception that we face is thinking that we are just letting everything slip. It's something, as Zoe is a PDR, so autistic ADHD PDR, and she doesn't mind me sharing. We have beautiful conversation about how we share what is needed to share for advocacy to happen. And we have our own podcast where she shares also in her pulse because she really wants.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So as a PDR and autistic and ADHD child, she doesn't like when there is too much demand, if that makes sense. So we prepare all of this. Everything is really clear in our way. And so there are some other parents who have, neurotypical children, like, oh my goodness, you're just letting her do whatever she wants. And that's why she's, how she is. You are
Yeah.
just accommodating so much, or you can never change a plan, or there is all of those things around. You are a soft parent, and that's why you have a child with neurodivergence. I'm like, no, 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 no. It's the other way around. I have a child with neurodivergence, so I show understanding, I show care, I show accommodation, and I do what is best for her to have the best experience and for us to have the best
Mhm.
experience. And someone I mess up. Sometimes I mess up. Sometimes like, oh my gosh, let's do this thing. And no, it doesn't work. We have to plan it. And if something get canceled, it's like a big shutdown is happening. So lots of misconception are coming from a lack of understanding around how we do things in our family and how many parents of neurodivergent children are, parenting.
Yeah.
So we really need a greater understanding, and that's where in understanding Zoe, you can invite other people in your relation who you are in relationship with, whether it's friends or other parents or teacher and so on, for them to understand the child better and what is needed for that child to have an experience that is not traumatizing them, that is not adding another shake in this Coca-Cola bottle, and then with all the shake, the Coca-Cola bottle just explode. So really trying to limit those shakes to make sure that those micro trauma are not happening. So I think this is the biggest misconception and misunderstanding. And actually something that, so we just finished research on over 1,500 families, and over 9 in 10 parents of neurodivergent children feel misunderstood. They
Yep.
feel misunderstood in their experience. They feel misunderstood in what they're doing for their children. They feel misunderstood. It's really isolating as an experience because only people who go through that experience will understand it. Unfortunately, at this stage, we're driving change towards that, but that's what's happening today. Today, 9 in 10 feel misunderstood, which is huge.
It is huge. I was thinking about that comment you made, in fact, earlier today and just during the week about being misunderstood or being a soft parent or letting, the kids get away with whatever when they were growing up. And I think inherently, despite not having the neuroaffirming language back then, inherently I knew that we would always be doing things differently. And yes, it caused some issues with extended family and friends, and you end up more isolated because you're doing what's best for your children, yet the misunderstanding from others around you becomes challenging.
Yes. And what you said, Michelle, is actually, so this research is not yet released. So I'm sharing some exclusive snippet of
Yes,
data
it's
here.
all
Very
you
excited.
cabooses. Yeah.
So the white paper will be available on the 11th of November. So I invite anyone who's keen to just let us know and download the report. But what we found as well is most of those parents find that they're less supported and understood by extended family members and friends. So exactly what you described. They feel better understood by a teacher, educator, therapists, support
Yeah,
worker. So
therapists.
it's
Yeah,
like
social.
those
Yeah,
are the one that will understand your lived experience better because they are specialize in a way or working in that space or having an interest in that space. Whereas how many times do I hear from friends being like, but Zoe doesn't look autistic or you don't look
yeah.
autistic or, they're not here for the shutdown and the meltdown that happen after a social
No.
event. They're not here for the day-to-day accommodations that we provide. They're not here for to see me when I become non-speaking after being in
Yeah, a
such
whole day.
heightened
Yes.
place and spending 2 weeks non-speaking under a weighted blanket like it happened last year. They're not here for those moments of
No.
brownout, burnout, shutdown, meltdown. So yes, I am gifted. I am autistic. I am ADHD. I am PDA. So people see me in my gifted self, being able to mask and just, wow, but you're
Yeah.
not autistic. I'm like, who are
Yeah.
you to say about?
Exactly right. Yeah. Yeah. It's all those things that people don't see,
Yeah,
the dinners in the room and, because it's darker, quieter,
yeah,
don't have to sit at the table and,
exactly.
it's all of those things that, people don't see. And when they do see, then there's a lot of judgment that can come with that.
Completely.
So, you've just touched on being gifted and, and a few other things there. How do you think that being a neurodivergent woman has influenced you as a founder? I know for myself, discovering actually along the founder journey has been interesting, with some pros and cons, I think. But how's it influenced you so far?
Yes. So I wrote an article a little while ago around rejection sensitivity dysphoria and how it impacts us as founder because there is this big
Yeah, it's huge.
misconception in the neuronormative approach of what a founder looks like. And a founder should take so many no's as an answer. A founder should be able to be rejected 1,000 times because before this happened. A founder
Mhm.
should this, should that. But when you have your RSD, so rejection sensitivity dysphoria, being triggered, and this is a really nervous system response. It's not just we made this up because,
Yeah,
it's more quantity and da 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 da. So the thick skin expectation that is put on us as founder, as neurodivergent founder, it is really difficult to just navigate that space. So what I always say is I give myself, and I encourage any founder listening to this, the space to digest a no, to then be able to reframe it as no being a new opportunity and no being a new opportunity. But I cannot
I love
just
it.
flip the switch in a
Ah,
second and be like, okay, it's a no, it's a new opportunity. Let's move on. No, no,
yeah.
no, no, no. I
Yes.
need to go through all of the stages. I need to honor that. And so I think there is this expectation around you need to be comfortable with going out there, getting all of those no's and getting stronger from those no's. And this is purely neuronormative approach. Then there is another thing that I really wish someone, and I'm not going to do it. This is me coaching myself to not create another business about this, but I
Yeah.
wish there was someone creating events like we have in those conferences for allied health, but for neurodivergent founder. Because as neurodivergent founder, I went to South by Southwest and it's really not designed for us. And last year I
No.
went to a digital conference and same thing, I collapsed after I had 2 weeks being non-speaking, as I said, and, in complete despair because of the light and the noise and the overstimulation and all of these
Mm.
different sessions happening at the same time. And you have no one guiding you through the space. There is no marking. You're expected to know everything.
Just work
And
it out.
even for neurotypical folks, this is challenging. So imagine when you add a layer of processing differently, having an internal experience that's different. And I was wearing my sunflower lanyard, couldn't see anyone around helping us. I went to the sensory room. It was really tokenistic. So again, I'm calling this out, and I know I take
Yeah.
risks doing that, but because we need more events that are for founders, that are thought for founders with a visible or an invisible disability. For
Mm.
us to be in that room, for those spaces to have our experience being represented, whether it's on stage, whether it's digesting the knowledge that is shared in those spaces, adding our own perspective, and then taking it back. So, it's I went only for one day because last year I went for 5 days of South by
Oh,
and then I
wow.
was completely burnt out. So this year I was like, nope, be realistic. Pick the day where you like most of the session. And I just went for one day and I couldn't do even the full day when I know other people can do the 5 days, and that's amazing for them. And I'm grateful that they can, but I just can't.
You
Because
can't.
that's,
Yeah.
those things where we know as founder, and you will know that, Michelle, that finding investors, finding connections, finding clients,
It's exhausting.
when you're recruiting people, you need to be in those spaces to find those connections. Yet those spaces are not designed for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are the two big things that I would say. There is so many more.
There's so many. Yes. I
The
think about
biases
the
of
no.
investor when they see you, you're a woman, so already as a woman you get 0.5 of the
Yes.
funding in Australia. And on top of that,
Yes.
you're neurodivergent. And on top of that, I'm
Yes.
non-native English speaker.
Yes.
So a calc. So
Right.
it's just like you go
Yes.
down the path. So I'm not saying that to discourage any founder who are neurodivergent. I'm just telling them you need to surround yourself with people who get it. And I'm happy for anyone listening to this to reach out to me. I was actually talking to a female neurodivergent founder yesterday and having this open chat between neurokin. But I think it's not an easy journey, but when you find the people who gets it and understand it, we support one another so
Yeah.
much. I have been supported by other female founder, other female neurodivergent founder more than anyone else. They mention my name in the room when I can't be here because of the care of my daughter or because of my own needs. They, they mention my name for a journalist to interview me. They mention my name for, a client to call us.
Yeah. Nice.
I'm so grateful for that. So we need to rely on more
Mm.
people than just us.
I think that's true, and I do like the no new opportunity concept because I think, yeah, for me that's been one of the hardest
Yeah.
things, and the comparing. You know, oh well, that startup is doing much better, or that startup's got funding. We haven't got funding yet. There's just a trillion
Yeah.
things that go through, and then the pitching for funding with the performance pitching, I think, is very difficult as well.
It's very
So
neuronormative because you don't have the question ahead. The question often, so this is a research from Harvard Business Review, which I encourage any female founder to check. When you're a female founder, you get a preventative question, whereas those who are presenting as male founder get promotional questions. So it's just
interesting.
so many biases that happen in the ecosystem that you really face this higher propensity of rejection. So then how do you
Yeah.
deal with that? And that's where having the space to, yeah, regulate, share openly, feel safe, supported. And
Mm.
that's why here I feel safe in that space. So I shared, names and things, but it's because we need to have those safe space. And I know Kaboose exists for that, where we can really share what's happening and how do we feel and how do we experience it.
Mm.
And so many people are brushing it off, being like, oh, you're just too dramatic. Oh, it's just because you're oversensitive. So you're like feeling everything 1,000 times.
No.
That's bullshit. That is an moment. So just watch out, peeps. I'm coming and calling you out when you do that.
Yep. Yeah. It is challenging, and you've touched on a few of those challenges. I guess, we at Caboose have, had our fair share of ups and downs, that's for sure. What sort of challenges have you faced, building your app, understanding Zoe? Yeah, keen to learn what you've discovered as well.
Yes. So the challenges we faced was as I said, the expectation of being on all of those networking events and so on. I live in Sydney, and so there is lots of event happening where you need to be there. Like you need to be in the room for people to hear about you, learn about you, whether it's from allied health to parents to corporate, because we serve those different markets. You need to be in those rooms, but I can't be in all those rooms because
Mm.
with my own needs, I need to be most of the times in my own office, as my husband called it, my cave. And it's taking me a lot of energy to go. Like I live in Dalwell
Agree.
Country, so down south of Sydney in Cronulla. And, going in the city with a train, like when I arrive in the city, I feel like I've already consumed so much of my spoons. And then I am expected to be at that breakfast and then at that event and then at that conference and then in those meetings. So the challenge that we've had has been for me to be able to accept that I won't be as visible, as present, and in every single room that I'd like to be and that I know we need to be successful. And
Mm.
that's a part of letting go and acceptance and grace that I need to give myself. And that's been a big challenging part, which is on
Mm.
myself, definitely. The other challenge that we've had has been to really kind of harness the strength of my monotropic brain and having this kind of, okay, this is how it needs to look like. But then as a founder, as you know, you have like this one thing, but then you need to do all of the other things. So I
Yes.
absolutely
So
love,
many hats you're wearing.
I know, and I absolutely love wearing the hat of the strategist, the visionary, the advocate, like all of those hats I absolutely love. But I also need to wear the hat of the finance person and the hat of the legal, talking to the lawyers to refine our legal thing. And then we are ISO certified. So, the compliance hat and
Yeah.
all of those hats that you need to wear when you're a founder at an early stage. It's, you don't do just the things that you love and that gives you joy and that, spark all of the strength that you have. You also have to do those other things. So that's been
Yeah.
a big challenge. And what I have found is helping me to reduce my demand is having an intern working with me closely and body doubling with her. So I
Yeah.
come from a business school in France, which is one of the best business school, and they have this internship program every 6 months. And so having this beautiful intern coming for 6 months, which gets enough time for me to trust them and know them. So this one came with me to the retreat
Great.
in Nusa and acting as a support person, someone who is here to remind me of what are the things that I really wanted to achieve that day. So really having that beautiful person in the team,
Yeah.
which maybe is a relationship you have with Roxy, or maybe it's someone else in your team, but
Yes.
trying to find someone who you can body double with, who you can like have this place where you reduce demand. So that's been my strategy around this, around not being
Mm.
able to be in every room. It's been about asking friends who are neurotypical and founder and who may be in those rooms, can you mention my name? Or if you hear about anyone who is looking for this, can you
Yes.
introduce us after? Like asking for help. And that's been
Yes.
really
It's
good.
very hard though, isn't it? To do
Really hard
that.
to ask for help because of the
Mm.
internalized ableism, right? And then the third thing that's been a challenge is the first 6 months of understanding Zoe. My co-founder was in a full-time job at the same time as working on understanding Zoe. So my co-founder is my husband, for transparency. And so he was working on understanding Zoe early morning, late at night, and weekends, which
Mm.
meant during the week I was a founder, I was a co-founder, I was working on the business full time. Then the responsibility as a parent of neurodivergent children, which you would know, driving them
Yeah.
to some therapy appointments and accommodation and days of school can't and all of these kind
Mm.
of things that comes in life. So the business was not progressing as fast as I wanted it to progress. So this kind
Mhm.
of frustrations that I had, but now that it's
Yes.
been full time for the last 6 months, I find like we've been going faster than ever. And so it's been
That's great.
also, simplifying our life and simplifying our family dynamic as well, because definitely everything was taking a bit of a toll with me being working very hard. And then my husband being working on top of being, a general manager in
Yes.
a big
Yes.
corporation, working early morning, late night, and weekends. So
Yeah,
the
that's
first
hard.
6 months of the journey of understanding Zoe were really challenging. And many days I was like, why am I doing this? And then going back to the why I was doing it and the impact we were having and those messages we were receiving from users. So if you're a user of Understanding Zoe, and I'm sure it's the same for you with Caboose, please take the time to send us a message when you love something. Please send the
Yeah.
time to, yeah, to just leave a review or something,
Makes
because
a difference.
it makes a difference. It's like those things, I save them and then I put them in a special folder when I have moments where I'm like, this is so hard. Why
Mhm,
am I doing this? And then I go
mhm.
back to my own lived experience, to Zoe's experience, but also to all of those people experiences, which they shared with me, whether publicly or privately. If it's private, I never reshare it. Be sure of that. But it's just something that I feel like, oh, I have this folder which I can go back to and I know why I'm doing what I'm doing.
I love that idea of putting them in a folder. I think I should do that too. We get some lovely messages, but you're
Yeah, I
right.
call
It's in
that
those
the love
moments,
folder. So it's called the
the
love
love folder.
folder, and I have it on Notion. So I just, every time
Oh,
someone send me something, I just screenshot it and I put it on Notion.
okay. That's a great idea. I think I'll have to do that because it is in those moments where, yeah, it's hard and,
Yeah.
you're questioning that sort of getting to the next phase,
Yes.
going
Yes.
back to the why. It's so important. So how, like, we've talked a little bit about all these challenges, that come from trying to build a neuroaffirming business, and clearly that is core to your values. How do you integrate that into your business? Because we know there are the neurotypical, business norms, I guess. How
Yeah.
do you do that successfully?
Mm. I love this question. And it's tiny things that goes a long way. So for instance, with Understanding Zoe, we are really working within the team with people who have a lived experience, who are connected to the problem we are solving with Understanding Zoe. Everyone that we work with, we want them to be connected to that problem, whether through, they are themselves neurodivergent, or they are raising neurodivergent children, or they're really connected to this through either the intersectionality. Like, we really want people who are very committed. So this is our way to correct the biases, because you may know that 50% of autistic, for instance, are unemployed or underemployed. So we really want to correct that by employing those people in the Understanding Zoe team. So it's really
Yes.
something that we correct. It's also in the communication ways. We allow different modes of communication. It doesn't have to be a meeting face to face or online. It can be, we use a lot of Slack messages, or asynchronous messages through a voice note. We allow different mode of communication. So that's
Mm,
something that is really important, because there is many expectation in neuronormative ways of working, which is come to all the meetings and do those meetings. And
mm,
this was a question in the meeting where we allow for people to just walk away and come back later with the answer. We share the question ahead. For instance, for right now, we are interviewing for a designer role within Understanding Zoe. We are sharing the question for the interview ahead of the time. Like, those are tiny,
mm.
without asking them that they have to disclose if they are neurodivergent or not. We're just sharing the
Yeah.
a practice. It's universal design at its core, where lots of people are like, I will do it when I know that it's needed. But what about we do it from the get go? What about we
Yeah. Why not?
right away rather than those stairs? What about
Mm,
we do the same thing in an interview? We send the question ahead and you let everyone be prepared and then come to this interview and be their best self, because that's what you want to see. You
mhm,
trick into failing and so on. So really trying to make every ways that we work together as inclusive as possible with the people working around Understanding Zoe. But also when we talk to our customer, our clients, and so on, we're really trying to always be inclusive, always be affirming, always do the best that we can. And as I always say, we are all learning. So I am always forgiving of everyone who's learning, and I expect the same thing in the other way around. So
Yeah.
I think it's something that I learned through. So I had the privilege, but also I created that by sitting down with lots of First Nations in the past
Mm.
few years since I moved to Australia. I've been really diving deeper, and there is. I want to embrace this concept of forgiving when you don't know. So when
Yeah.
you don't know, you forgive. But if you know and then you do it intentionally, then don't ask for my forgiveness. So
Yeah.
really trying to embrace this concept of you didn't know, you made a mistake, you used the wrong pronoun, or you assume that this was okay to do. Now that you know, how can you be more inclusive? How can you do
Yeah.
better? How can you make sure that you're not excluding anyone in the design, in the policies, in the ways of working that you have as an organization?
Yeah. I love just sharing the question ahead, like, why not?
Yeah, it's simple, right?
It's simple, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. And so many of the accommodations or enablers that we put in place for neurodivergent individuals are actually good for everybody. So,
exactly.
like, it's, yeah, it's kind of a no brainer, really, but some way to go still.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, it's so interesting how, when you dim the light, everyone feels more comfortable, yet
Yes.
you have
Yes.
to just ask for those to be installed in many workplaces. So it's just so many things that I'm
Mm.
like, we could all feel better. But for
Yes.
the neurotypical, it's like it's more comfortable. For us, it's
Mm.
about we can or we can't be in that space. So this is the equity concept, right? So just embrace that and start thinking with universal design in mind rather than just being like, okay, we're going to be compliant and this is a compliance that we're going to put in place. So yeah, so we're really trying with understanding Zoe to embrace business practices that are inclusive and that makes everyone meet their accommodation. And that's why, this podcast being on a Saturday morning, it's actually way simpler for me because the girls are at their drama. So when Roxy
Yeah.
offered to do that, I was like, yeah, it's actually way better than an
Yeah.
evening
I've
where
been thinking about that too
yeah,
because I'm not coming off the back of a long day to do it either.
exactly. And
Yeah,
evening is always, as I call it, witchy hours. There is a lot of
correct.
letting go from the demands at school. So it's often when we get a meltdown or, like
Mm.
the co-regulation is even more needed in the evening. So for me, an evening is harder than a morning. So, um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's great. We might have a new time slot. Rox will be no doubt listening to this if she's not already. So I guess, what advice, I know I get asked this a bit, would you give to another neurodivergent woman or parents even considering entrepreneurship?
mm,
Because it
wow.
is a tough little journey, isn't it?
Yeah. I would say the first things that I would tell them is, are you really clear about why you're doing it? Because the vision, the passion, the deep interest in this topic is what is going to get you through those ebbs and flows of going through running a business. So,
Mm.
really making sure that you are truly and passionate about this so much that you're willing to go through this journey. So, going back to the why, the passion, the vision, because it will take you down a journey that is going to be a journey of self discovery, which is going to be wonderful and challenging. So,
Hmm.
it's where you really need to be passionate. The other thing that I would tell them is surround yourself with, whether it's a team or whether it's in your family, whether it's through friendship, with people who can hold space for you when things get
Mm.
tough, it will. So having those safe space where you can share about what's been happening and so on. So making sure that you're surrounded. And then the last one, so the first one is having a why. The second one is making sure you're surrounded by an amazing village. Like I always say that, like it takes a village to raise a child. It's the same thing when you grow a business. You need to have your community and so on and so forth. And the third one is be open to delegate what you don't know how to do. The people that will help you in your business journey will get you to the next space without you
Mm.
struggling too much. And when I say that, I'm not talking like, oh, you need to pay someone, $5,000 a month, which is a money you may not have, but you can start with a virtual assistant. You can start with an intern who you pay a bit less than a full-time employee, just trying to find those resources that can help you and support you, who you can delegate those activities which may not be sparking joy. Because if you just run a business, doing things that you don't like, you will not be happy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
finding the way for me to wear the hat that I love the most is by surrounding myself with people who will be able to do those other things that don't really give me joy. So I don't have to do
Yes.
so many of those things. I still have to do some of it, but I don't have to do
Yes.
all of it. So those would be my three main points. And if I can add a fourth one for those of you who are parenting neurodivergent children, or for those of you who are just parent, know that you need to have the right support system as well for your child to not feel like you're abandoning them and you're just working. Because when you're an
Mm.
entrepreneur, a lot of people are embracing the Tip Ferriss concept around, oh, you're going to work 10 hours a week. Nope, you're not. You're going to think about your business days in and days out. Not that there is no
Yes.
day off, but you are always living, thinking about it, especially it's very connected to your why. So you want to make sure that your family will not be impacted by this and that you will cater some special, beautiful moments with your children. But if you're not
Mm.
able to then be all the time at pickup, you have, someone supporting you for that, or just making sure that your children will not suffer from you, your own business, because you don't want that to happen.
Exactly. Yes, it's definitely not a 10-hour a week gig, that's for sure.
It's like this thing, like, I think it was Tim Ferriss who wrote that book, and so many people, they start a business and they tell me, "Oh, I started because I wanted to work less." I'm like, "Okay, great. So,
Yeah, good luck with that.
I'll watch you doing this." I've been 4.5 years as an entrepreneur before I had my other business, which was a consulting business. And
Mm.
yeah, it's definitely not a 10-hour gig
No.
at the
No.
start. At least maybe in a few years, when you have the right team, when you have a business that's running, when you are,
Yes.
but it's definitely not the case when you start.
No, exactly. And do you feel like are there any sort of lessons that from this entrepreneurship journey that have influenced your parenting or vice versa? Do you
Ah, it's a
any?
good question. So I definitely think that I have learned a lot from parenting that I bring into business. So, for instance, when you are parenting, especially a child with neurodivergent, or even parenting any children, there is all of this organization, planning ahead, and things like that. That
Mm.
then you can apply it to your business, and all of this planning forward approach can really
Mm.
bring high value to your business. Getting into this habit of planning forward. And the other way around, I think there are strengths that I took from running a business and bringing it into my family. So, for instance, this rejection sensitivity dysphoria that I experience, and giving myself the space to digest it, then giving the same space for Zoe to digest when this is happening.
Mm.
And also something that influence both in some way, it's this kind of deep understanding of self. As I said earlier, when you run your own business, it's a journey of self discovery. I was a general manager in a big corporation. I've been a strategy consultant. I have done a lot of high profile, high demanding role in the past, but I could always hide or mask
Mm.
behind an organization, behind a brand, behind a big boss, behind, a board decision, things like that. When you run your own business, you are responsible. And that's
Mm.
the same thing when you parent. You are responsible for
Yeah,
that
true.
word that you told your child, that action that you took, that thing that you did. So I think you are discovering so much about yourself. And for me, running my own business and parenting a neurodivergent child has been a journey of unmasking, has been a journey fully showing up as myself. When I was working for a big corporation, I was not necessarily sharing everything. Whereas now I'm comfortable, having my personal brand online and sharing what I feel like to share, because there is no marketing or branding risk. This is
Yes,
something
yes.
we
There's no brand. I used to call them the branding police when I worked in professional services, and
exactly. So
similar
there is no
background to
branding
you.
police now.
Yes.
I get to decide what I want to share. And
Mm,
whether it was when I was running Essential Shift Consulting and now running Understanding Zoe, I get to decide what I like to share. There is no one telling me, nope, that's no,
mm.
that's you're not allowed to say that, or nope, da da. So there is this sense of freedom and self-discovery. You get to know yourself, you get to go down those rabbit hole of self-discovery.
Yeah, that's great. I know this is not a forward, planned question, but I'm curious about your book.
Yes.
In the bio, we talked about that. Can you tell me a little bit about that, and when
Yeah.
did you write it, and what kind of motivated you to write it?
Yes, sure. So my book is called Light It: How to Trust Your Intuition and Build a Thriving Business. And I wrote that book in 2021, 2022. And that book came to me as I was grieving a friend of mine who passed away from cancer very quickly.
Mhm.
And as I was doing a deep silent retreat and meditation, that book came to me around how I had shifted completely my life 11 years ago now. At the time, 10 years, 9 years ago. How many years now? Whatever. I had a burnout in 2014. So it was what, 11 years ago? Yeah. So 11 years ago, I had a massive burnout when I was a strategy consultant back in Paris. And from there, I shifted my whole life. We moved to Australia. I found a role where I was very clear around my boundaries and how I work. And, I didn't want to go down again an autistic burnout. So I was really, really clear with all of that. So I definitely changed and shifted my entire life to make sure that I will not hit burnout again, because we know that unfortunately burnout can have impact in long-term effect in
Mm,
your life. And so yeah, so I was grieving and witnessing it. We had worked together in strategy consulting in that high-paced role.
mm,
He had carried on, if that makes sense. So I had
mm,
this moment of, okay, I need to share about how I did it to help other create a business and a life that is honoring their own intuition and knowing when they are going to burn out, knowing
mm,
when they need to slow down and trusting the process. Because in entrepreneurship, there are lots of self-help book and strategy, which is about, you know, make 1 million in 10 days. I'm like, dude, how do you do that? So
yeah,
it's
that's.
all of those kind of dude, neuronormative, bro
Mm,
tech marketing book,
yes,
pyramid
yes.
scheme book, which is all about you will have success in, 12
Mm,
months, 10 million, whatever, all of those books. So this book is really about reconnecting with your own intuition. Why did you start this business in the first place?
mm,
Why are you in it? And trusting the process. So LIGHT is an acronym for L, which means leaning in. So lean in towards your vision. I, which is illuminating. So the planning forward with an illumination map and so on. You can read the book. G is about
mm,
gathering, which I mentioned quickly in our conversation. You gather around you the people that will help you make this business successful. And you gather within you your strength and your unique talent to make it successful. The H is about honoring. You honor the process. You take the time that you need. If you plant a pineapple, you will harvest one pineapple in 18 months. If you
mm.
plant some cherry tomato, you will harvest them in 3 months and plenty of cherry tomato. But you may be hungry after, eating a
Yes,
whereas after eating a big pineapple, you feel full. Or
yes.
same with another analogy, but it's like saying that things takes time. And
Mm,
then the T is about transform. What's been the impact that you've had? How have you transformed lives or your own lives through running your business? And this is a framework that is cyclical, and you go through the light framework
nice.
at every stage of your business. So it's a very simple framework that I explain with tools, with lived experience, with stories. And yeah, it's weaving
Mm,
together strategy, spirituality, and evidence based process.
amazing. I am set to go and download it. I have to do some work travel this week, so I will
Yeah.
be listening to it on my travels.
Thank
So,
you. Thank
yes,
you so
yeah. So,
much. I know that it's every time someone listens to it, they're like, oh my goodness, it's really entering in resonance with what I needed at that time. So yeah, I hope you like it. Give me feedback
I will
after.
let you know. I will
Yeah,
be sure to let you. I will send you a message after I've listened to it.
thank you.
So tell me what, just to end, I guess, the session, what's one small thing that never fails to bring you joy in parenting or in business, given we're talking about both topics today?
Yeah, something that, and I had this question ahead of time, so I could give some thinking to it because there are so many things that give me joy, and maybe it's my PDR, it's like, what's one thing? I'm like, one thing? Oh my God,
Yeah, yeah, that's
such
right.
a much
Yeah.
to learn, Michelle.
Tell
But
me
I have managed
everything.
to narrow it down into a big concept, which is connection.
Yeah.
So connection, either connection with myself
Hmm.
through a bath, a meditation, journaling,
Lovely.
connection with self, connection with someone else. So maybe a hug with my daughters, a hug with my husband. Like I'm a hugger. Like if we meet in
Uh,
person, Michelle, I'll ask you for
yes.
permission. Like when we
Good.
met Roxy in
Okay,
person,
good.
I was like, can I hug you? It's like I am
Yes.
a hugger
Good.
and I need this deep compression to feel. And so yeah, so this connection with someone else. And then also connection with, if you're in my book or if anyone connect with me, you'll see I'm very highly spiritual. So all connection with what's around me. So
I
connection
love
with
it.
nature. So going barefoot in my garden, listening to the birds singing or looking at the tree moving, like the
Mm,
foil of the tree moving. So really connection. Connection is what always gives me joy. Reconnecting with self or other or the universe is really
mm.
how I am always having this parasympathetic nervous system response. I can just like,
Nice. Yeah. I love it. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. That's, you know, it's a great way to end our session today. So thank you again for giving up some of your Saturday morning to talk to us. So yeah, we've hit time. So just a reminder to everyone, we have other divergent discussions coming up next week. We have later in November, actually, I think we have Luke Holdsworth. He is talking about gaming, particularly within the neurodivergent community. So he uses that as a way to connect people. And you can get those tickets through Humanitics. We've got, Rox has got a sort of lineup for November, December coming through. So you'll see those in the app or on our website.
Cute.
Amazing. Well, thank you again. And it was so great to meet you. I'm surprised we haven't connected before now, but appreciate that now we are connected. I continue this conversation.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much. See you soon.